What's going on, everybody? It's Andrew with Natural State Horticare here. I want to go over the best hidden feature on your irrigation controller. It's called Seasonal Adjustment Percentage, and it allows you to make universal adjustments to your entire program without having to reprogram each zone every time the weather changes. So let's go over just how to do that really quickly. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to check our time and date settings. You can use your arrows here to cycle through and change the numbers with the plus or minus. And once you verified that your date's correct, we're all good. So we need to move on to start times. Start times are exactly what they sound like. That's when your cycles are going to begin, what time of day your system's going to run. If you've been optimized by our team, you're going to show 3 start times. So bear with me here. This is the one of the more complicated things, but in this purpose, all we're doing is verifying because most of you have already been optimized. If you haven't been optimized, click the link below and we'll check that out in more detail. But for now, we're going to assume you've been optimized and you're set for a cycle and soak program. So the start time should say first at 2 a.m. You can then cycle to your next start time with the arrow button, second start time at 4, and a third one at 6. This is a cycle and soak program. It gets the water out in 3 separate runs on the days that your system runs. The one thing to kind of keep in mind about that is, is it will affect your run times. So your run times here, where it says 6 minutes, you're just going to have to multiply by 3. So if it says 10 minutes, then that's a 30-minute overall run that day because it's going to run for 10 minutes at 2 a.m., 4 a.m., and 6 a.m. totaling. By the time it finishes that morning, you will have gotten 30 minutes in that zone. So just kind of keep that in mind that we're going to multiply by 3. Again, this is just a check. We're just making sure that nothing has been changed. We don't have to make changes here. So the whole purpose of this is that you don't have to do. We're just verifying that we are on the right page because if you adjust the percentage of something and it's wrong, you just made the percentage wrong. So we're just verifying. We shouldn't have to make any adjustments here so far. So just verifying that our start times are correct, date and time are correct. Run times, they'll be set by our team if you've been optimized. If not, it's a good reason to get optimized. Again, if you adjust with the wrong settings based on percentages, you're just adjusting percentages randomly. So you need your system set correctly first to make any of this useful. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is your water days. So really quickly here on this controller, it's represented here just as a turn on the dial. And then each day of the week is represented with a raindrop or a raindrop with a cross through it. Obviously, the raindrop with a cross through it means that day is not active. The raindrop means it's active. Then you can cycle through with the arrow, or you can plus or minus your way through, turning each day on or off. If you've been optimized, you should be 3 days a week for about 80% of the year, maybe even more. And then a fourth day is necessary whenever it gets really, really dry and we're in drought. Typically, we like a lot of manual control so that we can do things like program B if we need like potted plants or flowers or things like that. Again, more complicated. Let's not even go there. But for the purposes of this video, program A here, indicated here, you should have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that brings up the programs, right? So the only other thing we need to check is that we are in fact on program A, and it's going to indicate it here in your system. You can cycle that with, there's usually a button or a dial that tells you, or a like a switch that indicates A, B, C, or D. My best advice is if you don't need those programs or you haven't been optimized by us, just go to the secondary programs B, C, D, etc., and just turn the days off. That's the quickest, easiest way, or just remove start times altogether. Those are the easiest, simplest ways to make sure that there's no additional programs running that were not intended. So again, we're not changing any of this, we're just verifying it. So once we've done, verified our date, our start times, run times, you can basically ignore. Days of the or water days, and 3 days a week is kind of where we should be, especially at the beginning of the year. And then last but not least, we're going to go to seasonal adjustment percentage. So all of that was just to verify that we're good and we're on track. Now, if you know that you're the only person that ever touches your controller, maybe this check is only necessary once a year. If you're somebody that maybe has a landscaper involved, maybe keep an eye on it. So, it's just a few clicks of the dial down to your seasonal adjustment percentage. And then here on your screen, you're going to see a little number blinking that's going to represent what percentage you're set to. So some controllers are pretty smart and they're going to, in real time, adjust your run times here. So it's pretty interesting little tidbit. Again, don't need to know this other than to know that it is happening. So if you go to your runtime, and on my first zone here, it's showing me 6 minutes currently. Well, if I go back to my seasonal adjustment percentage, it's at 60%. So let's turn it up using the plus button. We're just going to go to 100%. And now let's check on that runtime. All of a sudden it's 10 minutes. So at 60%, we're watering 6 minutes. So as you see, it's universally making those adjustments. It does it to every single zone throughout your entire system, A, B, C, whatever program, it doesn't matter. It's kind of a universal adjustment. Anyhow, so for the purposes of this video, this is the main thing we're changing. So you're going to change your seasonal adjustment whenever we recommend based on the weather using this dial setting and the plus or minus button. And honestly, so the general rule of thumb is whatever the nighttime or the low temperatures are for a week span, you're going to take that number, the average number, and you're going to kind of round up. So if that number is 75 degrees at night, we're going to round up to 80% of our water schedule. And the goal here is that we're programmed and our program is set for peak watering. 100% means we're watering all the water it's going to need during the hottest time of the year. And we're going to use percentages to decrease or increase that amount of water instead of going to each zone individually. And that way we know with a simple adjustment, we're always watering the correct amount, not too much and not too little. We're going to usually start our year at about 50 to 60%, depending on your lawn. You're going to get to know your lawn too. So take our recommendations with a little grain of salt of these are what we think you need based on decade of experience. So when you get the notifications, just know that your lawn is unique and there may be some unique situations that maybe warrant a bump up or down depending. But anywho, so again, let's just recap. The whole purpose of this is just to check and then adjust. So you should always be at auto. You should always have your correct time and date, which is just one flip here, arrows move across, plus or minus to adjust. The start times, if you've been programmed by us, you'll have 3. It's a cycle and soak program, pretty straightforward. Again, I know it's a little complicated, but if as long as it says 2, 4, 6 a.m. or thereabouts, you're good. No adjustments necessary. Run times, again, that should have been programmed by our team. If not, get an optimization. And then down here, water days should be 3 days a week for 90% of the year. Add a 4th day. This is why we like manual control so that we can do program B and C if you ever need it for potted plants or anything like that or new sod. So Sunday is our flex day. Sunday would be the day that we would maybe advise you to add later in the year. Again, really easy. So some have individual days listed on the dial. Some are like this one where it just has water days. You're just going to arrow over to Sunday and plus to turn it on, or you minus to turn it off. If you arrow too far and your system goes to something like this, these are called advanced cycles or cycles that allow you to do every 3rd day or every odd days of the week or whatever. We don't really use this feature just because we like manual control, but like don't panic if you ever see this. Just kind of arrow back and it'll take you right back into that view you were in previously. Simple. And then turn your dial to your seasonal adjustment. Use your plus or minus button to add or subtract percentages to set it to the average week of lows rounded up. And that's pretty much it. That's how you make seasonal adjustments to your controller. No more reprogramming every time the weather changes. Nice and easy. All right, thanks guys. Oh, don't forget, always back to auto when you're done. Very important.